Well, hello everybody, and welcome to episode 9 of Cardboard Time. I am Arwen.
This is Justin. I'm back.
Back once again. You weren't in episode 8, but now you're back for episode 9. I had to record without you because things got a little busy for the both of us.
Playing a bunch of games without me.
Yeah, I did that too. I'm not gonna apologize for doing that either, because they were good. The good thing about me playing games without you is the fact that now I know how to play them, so I'm much better able to teach them.
Yes, I'm happy with that. Learning games is not my favorite part about games.
Yeah, I know. I'm usually the teacher on them.
Even those videos can be like, ugh.
Come on. We love Rodney.
Just plug it into my brain already. Let's learn some kung fu.
Give me the Matrix. Just plug all the information directly into the back of my head.
I don't have time to learn. That's how we only get 3 games played on an entire Saturday.
Because I have to teach everybody?
We have to always play something new to get your shelf of shame down.
It is coming along, though, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. Today's beer of the day is the Duclaw Sweet Baby Java. It is out of Baltimore. It had a very heavy coffee and chocolate taste with a little aftertaste of peanut butter, and I rated it a 2.75 out of 5 before. I pretty much feel the same now. It was kind of bitter. It wasn't what I was expecting. I love Sweet Baby Jesus from Duclaw. I think it's an excellent beer. Very forward on the peanut butter. It's just really, really good. And this I couldn't get into despite really loving coffee.
So a 2.75 is like bad for you? Or
it's under a 3,
marginal?
So yeah, I view anything under a 3. It's like, I've had better, and I'd prefer to have something else.
Yeah, that's about fair for me. I wouldn't go out of my way to buy anything under a 3 other than staples like Yingling.
Yingling I would consider a solid 3.
I think that's might be where I have it at too.
I think that's a good reference. I think Yingling is kind of like my solid 3, and if I like it better, it goes above. If I don't like it as much, it goes below that.
It doesn't wow me, but I'm not going to get tired of it either.
No, exactly. It's good and drinkable.
Yep, it drank pretty good.
It drank pretty good. Justin, do you have any beers that you want to talk about?
I do, and I'm going to be honest, I probably have already brought this one up, but I got myself another case of Shiner Holiday Cheer before it goes completely out of season. It's probably my favorite Christmas beer, and I can't quite describe why. I think there's some sort of fruity, peachy flavor in it that I don't know why, it just works like magic, and I generally hate any sort of fruit flavor in my beer. But this one is just an absolute must for me during holiday season.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that you mentioned that the last time, so it must be pretty good for you to mention it again.
Maybe they're going to start sending me checks then, because I keep
God, one could hope.
Yeah.
Or at least some free stock, right?
Some free beer.
That way you've got some supply. You're good to go.
There you go. I'm reviewing beers, the same beers again. It's not my job to keep track.
Getting on to board game topics, we keep saying that this is a board game show. My Shelf of Shame count update is at 187, and there have been some new additions to it.
Is that a good number or a bad number?
187 isn't bad. It's, I think, less than last time. I'm looking at my calendar, my wonderful, wonderful calendar that my girlfriend bought me. I think last time I recorded, I was maybe at 189, and now I'm down to 187, so I can't be too sad about that.
I really want to see statistics on this because I want to see the projections on when your Shelf of Shame might approach 0, that I could maybe play a game more than once in a row.
Well, that's a lot to ask right now.
Like 2032 or something like that, maybe.
I'm hoping by the end of next year. I know
20XD6.
Mega Man numbers here. I'm really hoping by maybe the end of next year to have it completely down. It's ambitious, but it is a goal.
All right. So we can get back to playing games like normal humans.
Yeah, so I can play anything other than the base set of Dominion. So I did make a stop at my favorite gaming store in Northeast Ohio, the Gaming Goat.
They're also not sending you checks yet, are they?
No, although Eric is a very nice person to talk to, and I highly recommend going to see him if you're in the Northeast Ohio area. It is a fantastic little store. I had to pick up Res Arcana. I played it on Board Game Arena, and I wasn't sure at first. Now, this, if you follow my Instagram, I believe that I had posted about gizmos, and Keith from USB Escape had talked to me about engine building games. I really love gizmos for engine building. So he said, well, if you played gizmos, have you played Res Arcana? And I said, no, I haven't. And it was something that was on my list for a little while. And so I decided once it showed up on BGA, well, I had to play it. I wasn't sold at first. It is a shorter game. You get a deck of, I believe, 8 cards or 10 cards. Unfortunately, BGA automates everything, so it's hard to keep track, and I haven't played a physical game of it yet. But it's amazing what you can do with that amount of random cards and trying to figure out how to build an engine. It's really fascinating. It's an interesting game.
Well, I'm intrigued because I do enjoy some gizmos too.
Yeah, this is a pure engine building race. You're trying to get to 10 points faster than everybody else. There's some different ways of actually interacting with your opponents, which we tend to like some of that player interaction.
Oh, yeah.
And this allows you to do that and then subsequently block that as well. So there is some defense against that. But it's a very solid game. I really liked it. Again, I didn't necessarily know if I needed it in my collection with gizmos, but I finally decided, you know what, I'm going to pull the trigger on this after playing it a couple more times.
Well, then maybe we'll get to play it this week so I can review it next too, huh?
I'm hoping so, yep. So that will be a upcoming review if I have my say about it. The other game that I picked up for
everybody,
myself
this is Arwen with her
Super
editing
Skill
hat on,
Pinball
and
4Play.
yeah, it's not Super Skill Pinball 4Play, it is Super Skill Pinball 4Cade. That's kind of embarrassing. But anyways, just wanted to clarify that. Back to the show.
Which is a roll and write game based off of pinball.
That's wild.
Yeah, 4 different tables. It's gotten a ton of awards. I know it's very highly reviewed. It is from Jeff Engelstein, who is a very renowned designer. Lots of good stuff under his belt. So I'm going to try to play this one tonight to see what it's all about, and I will hopefully have some thoughts on it on the next edition.
Why does this excite me so much? A roll and write about pinball?
Because it seems like it wouldn't go together.
And then yet somehow I'm picturing it. I'm like, oh, this sounds really cool.
It looks awesome. I'm really excited to play it.
Well, now you got me all hyped up.
And it comes with 4 different tables that you can play on. So they're all dry erase boards. And you get to play on 4 different tables. It increases the replayability a little bit, I think.
Nice. That sounds cool.
So things that I did get to the table, I got Res Arcana out on Board Game Arena. We were able to play In the Year of the Dragon and Dinosaur Tea Party on Board Game Arena as well, which we are going to talk about today. And then we also got Spicy out on Tabletop Simulator, which we will probably talk about on the next edition. I think we're going to save that one because we have 3 very good games to talk about today. We might as well start off with the very first one, and that is Unicorn Fever, released in 2020. Unicorn Fever features 2 to 6 players, plays in about 40 minutes, designed by Lorenzo Silva and Lorenzo Tucci Sorrentino.
Lorenzo and Lorenzo.
The Lorenzo Show. And then art by Giulia Gigini, I believe.
That's pretty good.
I'm hoping that I'm pronouncing that right. And published by Horrible Guild. So Unicorn Fever is a betting game where players are going to try to place successful bets on unicorn races to win gold and victory points. Races can be influenced with the help of citizens of the fairy realm or playing magic cards to directly affect the race. This is a reimplementation of the 2009 game Horse Fever with many of the same mechanics, but Horse Fever was more about fixing races with mobsters as opposed to unicorns and citizens of the fairy realm and these magical creatures.
These are mobster fairies and mobster witches, so
They
it's
really
not much
are
different. I didn't realize this was kind of a remake, or I don't want to say reskin. It definitely got some changes, it sounds like, but I didn't realize that. So
it's kind of the same game, but with some significant changes to it.
okay. And definitely a lot more flair.
Yes, absolutely. Justin, this was my Christmas present to you.
Yes. You, me, and my wife, because she's a big unicorn fan.
Yes. You as the family.
Yes.
So I need to know what your thoughts are on this.
It's a fun game, I'll start out with. And it is adorable. I'm going to give some complaints. They may sound bad, but all in all, I don't think they really add up to being that bad. A lot of them are kind of nitpicky. One is it's a table hog. It is enormous, and I don't think it really has to be. This board is huge. You know, that's not a deal breaker, although people don't have like a dedicated game table are going to struggle with that. We had to move everything off the kitchen table here to get that one out. Some extra nitpicky things about it are all these mobsters from the old version are now like 5 classes of fairies, like witches and goblins and such. And you need to have those sorted into different decks. They all got the same back. Make a different back, you know. That's, you know, again, minor complaint. But that being said, the artwork on them is awesome. The magic cards and the contracts or the mobsters have fantastic artwork on them, but they're not the centerpiece of the game either. So you don't get to, you know, enjoy it front and center. But that said, the unicorn minis are pretty sweet looking too. And it's, you know, it's a kind of a goofy art style. As you mentioned, the artist, you kind of recognize her style from some other games. What was the one?
Potion Explosion was definitely the big one that it stood out immediately. I'm like, this is the same artist. She also did Dungeon Fighter, which I wasn't a fan of the gameplay, but I love the art. It's just a very quirky style, very cartoonish, over the top kind of style, and I think it works really well in this game.
Oh, absolutely.
Actually, she did the artwork for The King's Dilemma, which is not over the top and not, just exaggerated style like you see in these other games. I would never have assumed that she did those.
That's cool. I got to say, I like the style, and especially for this game, it really works. Maybe this would get better when I play it a lot, but I found myself having to have the rule book open just to make sure I didn't forget one little step in resetting. There's like 3 or 4 phases, you know, like betting and fixing and then actually racing, that sort of thing. And it was too easy to forget one of those little things. So if they just had a single reference card out there, that would have just made things so much smoother.
I definitely agree with that. I had noticed that as well while we were playing, and you had picked up on that because you did a playthrough with Joanna.
Yeah, before I played with you.
Correct. And you hadn't mentioned it, but you had basically come up with that as kind of a downfall. Right away, I'm like, oh my God, this needs a reference card.
Yeah, and not even on the back page of the rules was there a summary. You know, that it would be a minimum.
That would be fine too.
That said, it's a really fun game. It's a bit goofy. You know, again, it's a betting game. You're behind the races. You don't necessarily own any of the racers on there. You know, so it adds that kind of behind the scenes feel. Really cool mechanics, I think. It's heavy on the action selection. You know, it's one of those where it's really tight. You'll never get all the actions you want to do in a turn. And I think with some of our AP prone friends, that might be difficult because you're trying to sit there. You know, don't have a lot of actions, but trying to balance which one's going to give you the biggest payoff can be tough. For replay-wise, I'd say those contract cards or the mobsters add a lot of randomization to the game because there's a lot of special abilities you get with those. I think that made it a lot of fun. But yeah, overall cool mechanics. I liked how it re-ranked the horses and, you know, like speed actually mattered. You know, it's a pretty cool game.
Well, and your last place racer also got a special ability too that unlocked. So they were a long shot, and you got way more money if they won, but they also got a little bit of a boost nobody else got. So I found that pretty interesting too.
Oh yeah, the betting on it was really cool because it had so many levels of, multipliers and things like that, and it wasn't clunky, right? It worked out real well. Like, it was real slick. It had all this system for recording where the horse is ranked and updating the rankings and all that stuff. It worked real well. A reference card would just make it that much smoother. So that's my thoughts. I love the look of it. I mean, we're going to keep it. We're going to keep playing it. I really want to get a bigger crew out because I've only ever played it one-on-one so far. And I think it'd get really unhinged with a bigger group of players.
Yeah, especially at that upper player count. I think that this would definitely shine.
It'd force a lot more betting too, and I think that would make it pretty fun.
We thought about the Kickstarter on this, and I know that we were kind of both back and forth on it. We weren't sure, and we've already mentioned this before on a prior episode, but I finally just said, okay, this would be a great Christmas present because Joanna loves unicorns and
right.
we love games. So it's really a neat theme. I love the artwork. I can't imagine with the theme playing this game as Horse Fever. It would just be like, yep, okay, yeah. It's fine. It really added a lot of charm that worked on so many levels. So you have these corrupt citizens that are kind of influencing the race for you. That clicked really well. I will agree that there were some minor complaints about the reference card and feeling like we were missing steps at times. Not that it was a super difficult end of turn cycle, but you could miss things. With the theme, you could definitely get a more casual player to play this.
Yeah, for sure. Like my wife.
I think that it has a nice table presence. I can't speak to the physical presence itself, but I know on Tabletop Simulator, I looked at it and I said, it's colorful, it's bright. You have these weird looking unicorn minis that are on the table. Now, you said that they were smaller than you thought that they were going to be.
I would say that as far as minis go, they are exceptionally tiny, but the level of detail is still there. They look cool. You just assume from the back of the box that you're going to have these 3/4 of an inch figs, and they turn out to be, quite a bit less than that.
I will say that I'm not sure if I'd rather play this than Downforce. There's a lot of similarity. I'm glad that you have it because on my shelf it would be a tough decision between them, and I'm not sure that I would necessarily need both, but from a top level view, I think they both do very similar things.
I can see that. I think there's a little more craziness and randomness in Unicorn Fever for sure, and Downforce is dry from a theming standpoint.
It is, but God,
it's a good game.
I love dry games.
Some dry games.
There are some that are barren like the Sahara that I can't stand, but I do think that the theme does help this out.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Speaking of dry.
Yes. So that was Unicorn Fever. And you are going to talk about...
In the Year of the Dragon from 2007. And this is a Stephen Feld game, which I think might only be my second Stephen Feld game. Stefan Feld?
Stefan Feld, yep.
I think the other being Burgundy, which I enjoy. Heavy game. This is 2 to 5 players, 75 to 100 minutes, Rio Grande, and players are Chinese rulers around 1000 AD. The game plays in 12 rounds, each round representing a month. Boy, those rounds went fast.
Yes, they did.
Sometimes, when you're having a good time, time flies really fast, and we were having a good time. But also, as we'll get to, you'd think it would feel like it's longer. Anyway, we'll get to it. The first 2 months are calm. After that, calamity strikes just about every single month, requiring players to have to deal with it in different ways or suffer harsh consequences. Harsh, underlined. Mm-hmm. Each round, players select an action and then perform it with a strength based on the number of workers in their tableau that live under their pagodas, which give you different resources and or points or powers, I guess I would say, to help you deal with the calamities or prepare for the next calamity. So I'll let you start with your thoughts.
So, first of all, when you said that this game played quick, it really did. I draw a lot of parallels to our experience with 2020. Like, the first 2 months are calm, but then after that, Calamity strikes. It wasn't that Calamity didn't strike in the first couple months, but things got real bad in March.
Yeah. The relativity of the calamity escalated.
So that's kind of creepy. This game is brutal with a capital B. It is so incredibly brutal and can be really, really nasty because players are going to basically get actions during each round. And those actions are separated into different groups based on your player count. So we were playing with 3, so you had 3 different groups of actions. So the first player had their pick of the actions. They could do whatever they wanted to do, and they didn't have a penalty. Anybody coming after that wanted to do a same action in that group would have to pay 3 coins, which are very difficult to come by because you only get 1 action during a round. That means if you want to go get coins, you have to spend your entire round going and getting coins. So
3 coins isn't chump change.
It's a lot. So you really, really have to want to do that action to make it worth it.
Oh, and to make it clear, another player selecting an action doesn't just lock out that action. It locks out another 2 or 1 or 2 actions that are associated with it.
Yep, it blocks out the entire group,
which are assigned randomly.
Yeah, each round they basically get shuffled up and then dealt out into groups. It can get real nasty because chances are with the different calamities kind of coming out, you're probably going to want to do some of the same things as your opponents most of the time. So it gets really brutal.
This game's more about what you can't do than what you can.
Yes. It is really surprisingly easy to teach considering that it's a Feld. It's one of the easier Felds that I've picked up.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
And we played with our friend Trent, who is kind of into the hobby a little bit, but he's still getting used to it, and he picked it up right away as well. So it really isn't that bad to pick up. I will also say that turn order, because those different actions being blocked out, is incredibly important. And the people that you decide to pick up and kind of build your palace up and build those abilities up a little bit more will also affect how your turn order goes too. So the more powerful that they are, the fewer spaces that you're going to move in turn order, which means that your opponents then have time to catch up. And it's just a really interesting puzzle.
It's rough.
And it is so rough. You will not keep all of your workers in this game. So you've got this kind of engine that you're building up. And when you're playing a game normally, for most hobby games, you're building this engine up. It stays with you. So you're constantly building it up. Nothing's happening to it. You're just building on it and making it more efficient and optimizing it. And this, it's just constantly being bombarded and attacked and destroyed, and just the potential for things to go horribly south quickly is astounding in this game. I don't think I've ever played a game that's this brutal but fair. I mean,
penalties are unavoidable and frequent.
But you can see what's coming. I mean, it's not like it's a secret. It's not like you don't know what's coming. It's there on the board. I think it does.
You're right. It gives you ability to plan for it, but
here you know what's coming. So you can plan, and if you don't plan, it's on you.
It's fair. You're right.
Because you weren't first in turn order, you didn't get that action space that you needed, or you just didn't look at the calendar and say, oh, I've got to feed people this turn or else they're going to die and I'm not going to have access to their abilities again. It was really surprisingly good with its reputation around the community. I wasn't really sure that I was going to like it. I will get into that in my final thoughts. Justin, what did you think?
You say like you don't like brutal games, but I think you do.
We do.
I've been laughing this whole time because, yeah, this game is brutal. It is harsh, but man, I loved it. That was fun. It was a fun ride. There is a lot to keep track of. You're right. The rules are simple. The explanation is pretty straightforward, especially once you see it. It's not difficult in that. The difficulty comes in keeping track of everything because there's a lot of actions and resources. And as I said, it's more about what you can't do than you can. Every time I do like one action and I gain that one thing, I feel like I missed out on like at least 3 other opportunities, right? It's just you have to accept you're going to lose things, It's fair, right? And it might sound like that's a terrible game, right? But it's not. It is built solid. Everything works together so well. I think the weakness being for inexperienced gamers would be that, yeah, the rules are pretty straightforward. It's that just having that experience to like look ahead.
Yes.
And it's all right there. You see the whole calendar and what's going to happen. You can't just focus on the turn ahead of you. In fact, sometimes you just got to look at it and then be like, yeah, people are going to die. Well, let's see what's going to happen next month or the month after that, And so, that just comes with experience.
Well, and minimizing your losses and saying some of my people are going to die. So what's going to impact me the least? I'm going to prepare for this event to lose people so that this event where it would be an absolute catastrophe, I can avoid that. So
exactly.
I'm going to mitigate this event. This event won't be so bad. I'm only going to lose 1 or 2 people. So I will plan for this event instead.
Yeah. It's so well crafted. I mean,
it really is.
Yeah,
it really was.
It was a fun ride. Like I said, 12. You said there's 12 rounds. I'm like, wow. When I read that, I'm like, I don't remember 12 rounds because I was having such a good time. It went quick, And despite how brutal it was, I wasn't in pain. I wasn't just stuck there like, oh, when is it going to be over? I had a great time. It seemed like those 12 rounds went real quick.
They really did. I think we had maybe 45 minutes before Trent had to leave. And
we managed to squeeze it in, yeah.
Yeah, we got it in, and it was right about that time frame. So it says 75 to 100 minutes. I'm not exactly sure about that because
we did play on BGA, right?
We did, so it does streamline a lot of that.
Automation sped it up. If nothing else, just shuffling the actions and things like that.
Well, and the setup too, I think would be pretty brutal because I took a picture for my Instagram, and that setup was pretty involved. So maybe that's where the extra time would come in.
Nobody counts setup in the gameplay time.
Yeah,
that's
usually
on the
not.
Poor sucker who has to set it up. Usually yourself.
Yeah, usually it is. So from a final judgment standpoint, this is definitely sticking around. Again, I wasn't really expecting to like it given how brutal everybody kept saying it was, and I loved it. I feel, again, that there was enough opportunity to go in and plan and strategize and say, this is coming up, so this is what I have to do to try to make the best of a bad situation. And it's really another solid Feld. But it does feel different enough from the rest of Stefan Feld's games that I have anyways, that it's going to stick around.
I only got one to compare it to, Burgundy. But that is definitely different than Burgundy. I mean, this is a whole different game.
Yeah, it's way different. I've got Merlin, I've got Bora Bora, and obviously Burgundy. This feels entirely in another realm from those. Really well done. Really liked it. And usually you can pick up a copy fairly cheap if you watch your sales. So it's a really solid pickup, and I think it should be kind of one of those, not necessarily an essential, but something that people consider when they're building their collection hey, this is a cheap Stefan Feld game. If you've already got Castles of Burgundy, maybe I'll try this.
I gotta say, like, I can't wait to get this out again. Just talking about it, I think my heart rate is elevated.
Yeah.
I really...
It's so good.
It is so good. It's exciting. That said, I think I recall something that we probably didn't think of, is that perhaps if you have friends that are prone to rage and anger...
this would not be for them.
May not enjoy this.
No, this would not be for them whatsoever. Absolutely not.
But we had fun in that. We revel in that, in the squalor and the misery.
That is In the Year of the Dragon by Stefan Feld. And the last game that we're going to talk about on this segment is a little game called Dinosaur Tea Party. It was done in 2018 by Restoration Games. It supports 3 to 5 players, plays in about 15 to 30 minutes, and designed by Rob Davio, J.R. Honeycutt, and Justin D. Jacobson. Dinosaur Tea Party is a re-implementation of Who's It with a much better theme from 1976. Players in Dinosaur Tea Party are playing dinosaurs who can't remember the names of the other dinosaurs at this tea party. So using their deduction skills, they're going to find out characteristics of the other guests and then use them to figure out who each other player is. The first player to guess 3 different guest identities wins. So pretty simple. Justin, what did you think of Dinosaur Tea Party?
It's adorable. I love the artwork. This game, while we're playing it, just takes me way back to like probably far more than 20 years ago. Over 20 years ago, playing Guess Who with my cousins, It's not fair to say it's just Guess Who. There's a little bit of, some special features with especially those 3 cards that kind of break up the rules and the deduction a bit, but I kind of feel that it's really up to chance if you make the right guesses, and then the only way to win is to hope that your opponents make a critical error in that there was a deduction on the table that was available and they didn't see it, and then you got to snatch it up after they missed it, right? Mm-hmm. To me, that felt like the only avenue to win. And I don't know, for me, I don't like that because I don't feel like I won. I just feel like I tricked somebody, right? So that doesn't work for me.
It's a lot of timing, and not necessarily intentional timing, but you're like one thing away from going, it's either this or that, and you need clarification. If you just guess, then you're giving it to your opponent. But if you clarify it and you're wrong,
then the next player gets
you're also giving it to your opponent.
Yeah. So it was tough with that. And again, I want to win. I don't want to beat somebody, right? There's a difference. That part I didn't care for. Yeah, it's not Guess Who. It's probably, again, just a copy of Who's It, but I don't recall Who's It. So
it was a very popular game in 1976, apparently, because I actually saw an article, and it was the year that it came out, it was like the most popular game of that year. So either nothing came out that year, or apparently it was just really popular back in the 70s.
That said, I think that this game would shine in person, for one, with a group of people where you're just having a good time as kind of a party game, especially if you get people to role play it a little bit, right? That's not me, though. But if people had some fun being dainty dinosaurs having tea, it'd be fantastic. And even without that, I think if you had a group of people where you're, getting on each other's case about things, I think that'd still be a fun time. So yeah, I could see that coming out in 76 being like, hey, party game, It's not like they had Cards Against Humanity back then. So I could see people having fun with it.
I have Cards Against Humanity now, and I'm not exactly sure that I would rather play that over this.
Well, that's fair. I think if you had a group together who's just going to have fun, they're going to have fun with this game. Mm-hmm. I don't think the game itself is that much fun, but it gives you an avenue to have fun. And the cards are super cool. Jeez, I love the artwork on it. I think I recall when this came out, actually, I'm like, damn, that looks super awesome. But the gameplay is just, it's light. And it's random, and if you want to win, you're going to think really hard, deduct everything you can, and hope for somebody to slip up, which isn't a fun way to win to me. What do you think about that?
it's a matter of timing. Obviously you're trying to deduce these things, but the traits are simple enough. And again, this isn't for a more hardcore audience. This is probably for your younger set.
They're also not completely binary choices, though, which is kind of good.
No.
So it's not straight up guess who, yes or no.
No, and I liked the 3 dinosaur abilities did switch things up a little bit. I think that's what you're referring to.
As part of it, too, yeah.
Where there's one dinosaur that always lies. There's one dinosaur that will switch answers between yes and no. And then there's one that always says no. So it's a nice little switch up you can have that might throw some people off for a little bit. But ultimately...
It makes it harder to be 100% sure.
Yes. And ultimately, it does usually get down to this question is going to tell me one way or another. If I'm right, then I get to keep going and I can guess. If I'm wrong, my opponent is going to immediately go pick up on that and say, okay, this is what it is.
Unless they mess up.
Unless they mess up too. Yeah, but... Again, I don't necessarily know if this is meant for a pure hobbyist gamer. I do believe that it was probably made for a younger audience where you could have an older audience that would enjoy playing it, with the younger set. So, especially with the theme. I mean, the theme is super cool. The artwork is so awesome. The little touches, like when you guess a dinosaur correctly, that identity gets flipped over and the player that had that identity gets a new one. Some of them on the back actually have like little things that they leave behind, like napkins or tea sets or things like that it's just a little tiny touch that really makes it a really cute little game.
They put in all these little details that didn't need to be there, but why not? It's fun. So yeah, even the backs of the cards are unique, and the backs don't mean anything.
And the dinosaurs are so absurd. There's like a brontosaurus that's like up and kind of hunched over trying to, sit at the table. It's just so cleverly done. Even the back of the rule book has recipes for finger sandwiches and shortbread cookies. It's just a little small, tiny touch that didn't have to be there. The rule book could have been shorter. That would have been a decrease in production costs, I'm sure. But it's just that nice little touch. So again, the components were great and the artwork's great. I loved that aspect of it. I'm just not sold on the game entirely. And we played on BGA, so obviously, there was no in-person interaction there. So I would like to see this at a table with some live people.
Trying to think what other deduction games and basically any of those other vampire ones or vampire or werewolf ones, right? I don't know. Usually those seem to have a little bit more of a game within the deduction. And I think this one is just pure chance and deduction.
There's probably more of those games that are more geared towards the hobbyist as opposed to this. So I'm not sure about this one yet as a final judgment. I'm not getting rid of it until I play it in person. Like you said, Justin, I think this probably would benefit from in-person play, and I think that this might be nice just to have on the occasions where you have younger people coming over, you have families, and you're looking to kind of accommodate everybody. That is something that I could see, this would be nice to have around. Am I going to get it out a lot? No, but I do think that it would be probably pretty good to have.
Those cards are so cool. I can't see getting rid of it just for that, though.
Yeah, that would be tough to get rid of. God, that artwork is so cute.
It's awesome.
So that was Dinosaur Tea Party. And you're going to want to stick around because we have Kickstarter Corner coming up next. And we are back with Kickstarter Corner. Not a huge amount to talk about this week of played games, but the flood of things that are going to start coming in is huge. It's crazy. December, I kept talking about, oh, I wish stuff had come in. I wish this had come in. I'd wish that would come in. Well, everything's starting to come in now, and it's going to start making that count go up and up and up. So that said, I'm very excited about some of the things that are coming in. My Overboss has shipped, which, if you remember, that was from Brotherwise Games, makers of Boss Monster.
We've been following them for a while.
Oh, a long time. We were backers on the original Kickstarter, if I remember correctly. I think both of us were.
I think that's correct.
Again, we've shared our thoughts on Boss Monster, and it is something that I do have to go back and play again. I know that we kind of not necessarily fell out of favor with it, but other games kind of took that playtime from it. So that's certainly, this is in that world. So it's themed around those characters, which those characters I really love. It's just the gameplay of Boss Monster that I'm not completely, I'm not 100% sold on.
I'm with you there. It didn't age well, the gameplay, but the theme we loved. And it's definitely what hooked us.
It's fantastic. And again, you want to talk about little touches in games. I mean, just some of the little things that they threw in those was spectacular. So it's definitely not for a lack of theming whatsoever. So I am super excited to get Overboss. I love already some of the people that are posting about it are showing off kind of the game trays inserts, which I'm a huge fan of. I love good organization in a board game, and I mean visually this has that visual style that I am so excited for this. Another one that's coming soon that I'm super excited about that I don't know if it was actually a Kickstarter. I did get this on a pre-order, and that is Danger Park. And if anybody knows kind of the backstory of a little place in New Jersey called Action Park, this is essentially the board game equivalent of running your own extremely dangerous amusement park.
This is right up your alley.
Oh my god, I have wanted a game like this for so long. I can't tell you how incredibly happy I am that they designed this game.
I only know what you're talking about leading up to this because I've known you so long. Disastrous theme parks, yes. I've learned all this from you.
Yes, I'm a big advocate of action park history and lore. Getting it passed down to me from one of the guys I went to college with, he was going on and on about it one time, and just listening to the stories, I didn't believe him. I was just like, there's no way that this was possible. And sure enough, like, the internet comes out and you start hearing people talking about this and saying, yeah, this is real. Everything was real. And just the stories behind this, like looping water slides where they would pay you $100 to go down and test it for them. I mean, just crazy stuff like that. And I think that theme has a huge amount of potential in the board game world. So I'm really excited to see how this is going to play out.
That's going to be a high bar, though, your expectations. You have to get me in on that to check you a little bit.
Temper some of that stuff a little bit, I'm sure. I do really think that it's got the potential to be good. I don't know much about the execution. The BGG ratings, the last I looked, were very good. People enjoyed playing it. I haven't heard a lot of chatter about it, though, so it's going to be an interesting game for sure.
We'll find out.
And another game that I do know about is Cubitos. I have my copy on the way, and if you remember back a few episodes ago, we actually got the opportunity to do a little bit of a demo with AEG. I really enjoyed it quite a bit. Press your luck kind of dice rolling game where you're racing around a track and you get to roll like 10 dice on your turn, and you always have the ability to re-roll until you get up to 3 symbols on them, and then once you go after that, then comes the press your luck element. The theming on it and the artwork is kind of absurd. Some of the characters are really really goofy and over the top in how the artwork was done. This is another one that I'm super excited to actually get out physically to the table, because I think that table presence of it is going to be very important. Again, probably not one that plays the best on tabletop sim. So I am so looking forward. I think that's arriving tomorrow as we're recording this. Super stoked for that. And then finally, a Kickstarter that I got in on that unfortunately I didn't have time to share with all of you is the reprints from Button Shy. And if you remember a little while back, there was a Kickstarter that I backed called The Ugly Griffin Inn, a solo Button Shy game. I really enjoy Button Shy's work. Little tiny wallet or purse games that are very portable. You can have them on hand for whenever anybody asks you, hey, does anybody have a game? Now you do. I think it's a fantastic little company. They do everything by hand, and they recently went back to Kickstarter. Unfortunately, it has ended, but they did recently go back to Kickstarter to say, we have a bunch of old games in our catalog, and we're not sure if there's any interest, so we'll reprint them if there is. And I got in on this. I wound up getting in for 5 games. So
just 5, boy.
Well, they're little tiny. They're little tiny games, but I do think I'm starting to look forward to those times when we can start getting back together again in person. Just being able to have something on hand for those times that we can go to the bar or we can go to the restaurant and I can have something in my purse that we can play. So that was kind of my line of thinking anyways, other than
your self-justification for buying 5 more games.
That's why I had to tell myself to say, yeah, that's a really good idea, Arwen. That's fantastic. It's perfectly logical thinking.
Well done. Well played.
See, there's a method to my madness every once in a while. Not always,
you
but
don't need my help at all.
No, I do it to myself.
You do this to yourself.
If you don't know Button Shy, make sure to go to their website and check them out. Just look up Button Shy and they'll pop right up. They do have a really nice catalog of games that you can kind of take with you on the go, and they're very portable and very affordable too. Super cheap, like $10 a game, and really well done from my experience. So looking forward to getting the first Kickstarter and then this one as well. And with that, I also think that is going to do it for us. If you want to engage with us a little bit more, make sure to check out our Facebook page. I'm always posting on Instagram at cardboard_time with the new things I played and pictures of them. And I finally have a Twitter, also cardboard_time, if you prefer that. Make sure to check out our Board Game Geek podcast page. And if you have any questions, suggestions, or ideas for discussion topics, make sure to email cardboardtime@gmail.com. And as always, thanks again for listening, and see you again in another 2 weeks for another episode of Cardboard Time.
So long.